Hello, family members. Today, my short legs will be taking me to a slum community found in Lagos, Nigeria, called the Makoko community. Part of the community live on land and the other part lives on water. My partner for the day has never been to this community as well, so we decided to take a bus headed to Makoko so that where everybody is dropping, we will drop as well and we know that we have arrived at destination. But our main interest was not the Makoko land area, it was the waterside area. So this was where the bus dropped us. From this point, we had to move on foot to get to where we're going to. I guess this road was a welcome to Makoko community because the main road was filled with water and people were passing by the side pavement, which dirty water kept on touching our feet from time to time. We navigated our way to the water side by asking people along the road on how we could get there. They were kind enough to give us directives on the shortest route to getting there. Side note, please look at the faces very well of the people you choose to ask directions from. There are area boys around here, so once you look like you are lost or you ask them for directions, they would know you're either somebody new here and they will extort money from you. So look carefully before you choose the person to ask directions from. Now, to get to the waterside area, there are no clear cut out roads leading there. You have to pass through these narrow thin roads behind people's houses or in front of people's houses to get there. We even passed in front of the community's public toilet, and they said about 10 houses in this community share a toilet. So this is the toilet I'm talking about. Because this is a waterside community, the principal economic activity is fishing. So while moving around here, you would see smoke coming out from different angles, different kitchens, and you can tell that they are smoking fresh fish. When the fish is dried, they take it to the market and sell to make some money. Once you get to the water side, you will find so many canoes there and people hustling passengers to get into their canoes. This little boy walked up to us and told us to come and enter his canoe. I looked at him, he was about 6 years old. I'm like, so I should entrust my life that you will carry me safely and I will not fall in this water. And he said yes, and guess what? He gave us an outrageous amount for us to pay. I'm like, who taught this little child so much money? Anyway, we ended up going with an older guy to drive us inside the community. Now, the first thing we had to do is, of course, go to the chief's house because for courtesy's sake, you do not just walk into a community like it's your father's house and you don't acknowledge the people who are there. So we just wanted to go to the chief's house to make sure that we are not violating any rules or regulations. And just to say hello, hi, we are in your community. So we got to the chief's house. He wasn't around, but his son was around who attended to us. The chief's son is one of the very few people in this community who speak and understand English language. He was very nice and welcoming and told the guys driving the canoe to take us around the community, showing us what they have to offer.
Okay, maybe they should take you guys know. If anybody wants to disturb you, just say that you are selling the thief. Just say that I allow you.
This is the first school they showed us. The community has about 3 schools in here where their kids go to attain formal education. Makoko is an informal settlement across the third mainland bridge located on the coast of mainland Lagos, Nigeria. When we got to the waterfront part of the community, we heard the people speaking a strange language which sounded to me almost like Yoruba, but the friend I was with told me nope, that was definitely not the Yoruba language. So we asked the chief which language they spoke in here, and he told us they speak Badagry. Now, this waterfront part of the community is largely harbored by the Egun people who migrated from Badagry and the Republic of Benin. This settlement is a very old one. It has been existing since the 19th century. It is fondly called the Venice of Africa. All the houses on the waterfront are constructed on stilts above Lagos Lagoon. It is a very interesting place to be in, as you see how people have innovatively built their world around Makoko. This is another school they have in this area. It is a school and orphanage. These people are living very happily despite the poor living standards. This slum area has a population of about 300,000 people who live in Makoko. Each house has its own canoe that they use for transportation. You know how we do it on land when we want to visit our friends, right? We go with either our cars or a taxi. You park in front of your friend's house and then you walk into the house. It's same with these people. If they are going to visit a friend in this community, they go with their canoes, and by every house they have a stick there where you would tie your canoe before you walk into your friend's house, just so your canoe is properly parked and it does not disturb the traffic of others who are moving about in the community. Interesting, right? The chief's son told us that everybody in this community knows how to swim. Once you are born in this community, you automatically know how to swim because it is a life skill you need for survival. While he was explaining this to us, I turned to my right hand side and I saw this child of about 1 year old fall into the water. My God, the way my heart skipped, only for me to see this child swim out of the water like a fish and climb back to their house. The chief's son looked at me smiling, saying, everybody here knows how to swim. It is a life skill. You know you need it for survival. If you get to 2 years old and you do not know how to swim living in this community, then there is something definitely wrong with you spiritually, in the words of the chief's son. So knowing how to swim here is a skill they all possess, free of charge, without being taught by anybody. You just have to learn how to swim to survive. When I saw that child fall into the water, I don't know if my heart skipped because of how dirty the water looked or because I thought the child would drown. Now let's talk about the hygiene of this area. The community has no proper latrines, so all the household waste plus kitchen residues and all kinds of materials end up in the water below their homes, thereby giving the water a foul smell. If you have watched my previous video where I was going to the Lagos Island for the first time and I got stuck in traffic on the third mainland bridge, it was from there I saw this community, and while they were taking us round, I saw the bridge again. I was like, let me zoom it in for you guys to see. That's where I was when I sighted this community. Now on my left hand side, where you see the children wearing yellow, they are for holiday classes. So schools were closed, but that particular school was doing holiday classes for the kids. These people have adapted to living in this place and they have tried their best to provide for themselves the basic living amenities they will need to survive. So in here, they do have a hospital. This is their hospital on my right hand side. It is a traditional hospital. So if you're sick, they would bring you here where you will get traditional medications to heal you. In here, they equally have churches. I saw Redeemed Christian Church. Basically, the things we would do on land, they try to replicate them here as well. The same way people walk about selling food and snacks on land, yes, you also have people who walk about in this community selling food and snack in their canoes. Just like you see this mama on my left hand side selling food, that's how so many other people do as well. They do have pots and flags of food in their canoes. Some canoes move about selling just bread, mineral and other snacks. I was very impressed by this, honestly, because despite their situation, it could be room for laziness for them, but regardless, they are still very much business conscious and they are trying their utmost best to make an honest living for themselves. This community will make you appreciate God more over your life for all the blessings He has bestowed on you. Life expectancy here is low because of the poor living conditions, poor quality water, mosquitoes which thrive in the lagoon. They are prone to having so many diseases such as malaria, respiratory disease, and malnutrition. They have no electricity in this area. Despite all the setbacks they have, something really struck me, which is the amount of children I saw in this community is way more than the amount of adults I saw. I could literally count the adults on my one hand, but the kids are all over the place. And I was wondering, why are there so many kids? How come they are able to reproduce this much despite the harsh living condition? I got to learn that Makoko is literally translated from Yoruba to be pick akoko. In Yoruba tradition, akoko leaves are used to aid fertility and are also used during chieftaincy coronation, and present day makoko had the leaf growing in abundance, so it only made sense that the inhabitants of this community probably ate or drank that leaf so much. That explains their high birth rate. I also wondered what happens on days that there is heavy rainfall and the waters rise. And I was told they are at high risks of floods and waterborne diseases. People have argued that the place should be demolished, and others have argued that Makoko is a well-established and historic community with clear community structures in place. So rather than it being demolished, it should be improved. People who live on this water are considered to be living on the island of the community, and people who live on the land part of the community are considered to be living on the mainland. Funny enough, the cost of living on the mainland of the Makoko community is way more expensive compared to the cost of living on the island, which is this water side, which is relatively cheaper. This is the direct opposite of Lagos mainland and island. Everybody knows that the cost of living on the Lagos island is way more expensive compared to the mainland, but for this community, the reverse is true. People on this waterfront side of the community seem to be very welcoming and hospitable. Once they see you filming, they would wave at you, greeting you. When the chief's son told the guys to take us round the community, he told us if anybody stops us, we should say we have already seen the chief. Funny enough, nobody stopped us to ask us any question of why we're filming the community or anything. They were very much okay with the camera. As for the adults who did not wave back, the look they gave me was the unbothered look or indifferent look. I'm guessing in their minds they were telling themselves they are already going through a whole lot just by being born and raised here, and they have to fight to survive in life, rather than coming to meet me to quarrel me or ask me rubbish questions. But overall, the community is made up of very, very friendly people. From the moment we spoke to the chief's son, he was very, very friendly. He welcomed us well, and we had a very nice interaction with him. He was ready and prepared to answer all our questions we had in mind. One of the questions we had in mind was, how do they get good drinking water? So they brought us here to show us their borehole. This is where they carry water to drink and the water they use to cook. As we went around this slum community, I had a rush of emotions, from gratitude to sadness to curiosity. I just had all sorts of thoughts in my mind. What would I have done if I was born here? I felt life is so unfair to these people, and they are not given a fair chance to shine through. The schools they have in this community are so substandard. They lack the teaching staff and learning materials. I learned that for you to send your child to a school found on the mainland of this community means you are somewhat rich for their level. While talking to the chief's son, I asked him why is he one of the very few people who speak English, and he told me he didn't school in this community. He was born and he grew up here, but his dad was able to send him to school on the mainland of Makoko. So that's where he got to learn a little bit of English. He doesn't speak English so well, but at least we could communicate. In my head, I was like, lucky you, you're the chief's son, your father can afford that. But what happens to the rest of the population whose parents cannot afford to send them to school on the mainland side of this community? They end up going to school inside this community, which is really, really substandard. Regardless, they are still a very happy people. This all came from Abi. Our trip had come to an end. They took us round the community and we found ourselves back at our starting point. There was serious traffic on our way back. Everybody here knows how to paddle a canoe. You see this child right in front of me on my right hand side. This is the kind of child that wanted me to enter their canoe for them to take me around this community when we arrive. See how small this child is. I will now put my life, I will entrust my life in the child's hand. I was like, please just let me be. So one of the guys were with in the canoe. He found a way to push our canoe to the front and asked me to step out while he held the canoe down because I was so scared that I might fall into this water. I did not want to hear stories that touched the heart. The guy was so jovial and told us to add him some money because he did private Uber for us. He did not pick other passengers on the road. It was so funny, but I left this community feeling very satisfied. This is definitely a place you would want to visit if you found yourself in Lagos. Thank you so much for watching till this point. I will see you unfailingly by the help of God on my next one. Bye.